What if Itadori from Jujutsu Kaisen was in Demon Slayer? Just imagine how insane Itadori would be against Muzan's upper moons. Itadori is at his peak, surpassing the King of Curses, Sukuna, and even Satoru Gojo himself. In this version, Itadori has evolved so much that one of his attacks can simply cause an explosion bigger than Sukuna's Fuga, the one we saw in Shibuya. Exactly, the guy is insane. So can Muzan stop this monster? And what will he change in the story we know? Look, Itadori was caught off guard not by just one, but by several special great curses. He was thrown into the world of Kimetsu no Yaiba. Yuji lands in a forest with a terrible smell of blood, but with beautiful wisteria flowers around him. Yuji was in the final selection, the admission exam to become part of the Demon Slayer Corps. Several demons attack him. However, Yuji is on another level. He simply disappears from their sight in an instant, and when they realize it, they're already turning to dust. See, Itadori doesn't need a Nichirin sword to decapitate the demons. After all, he possesses cursed energy and the divergent fist technique, which strikes directly at the demon soul. And Itadori is shown to us as the only sorcerer in the entire history of Jujutsu Kaisen who can use a black flash whenever he wants. A technique that increases all the parameters of a sorcerer's strike. It was shown to us in the manga that he doesn't even need to make any effort now to reach this power. Itadori is simply on another level. The Onis are frightened by the scene and back off. Looking for a way out, Itadori finds Tanjiro fighting against the hand demon where it seemed like it would be his end. Seeing Tanjiro's struggle but also his perseverance, Itadori watches until Tanjiro defeats the hand Oni on his own. As we heard from Itadori himself, he wants to see the next generation grow, but not just grow, he wants to give them space to act. Therefore, he only intends to interfere in truly crucial moments. But also notice that while Itadori was watching Tanjiro's fight, he heard him tell the Oni that they were in the Taisho era. This surprises him. Itadori quickly realizes that he was sent back to the past, where curses were running rampant. And worse, there aren't many sorcerers like him. After all, he only found ordinary swordsmen with mediocre skill, except for Tanjiro. In the universe of Jujutsu Kaisen, most of the most powerful techniques have a condition for activation and use. So, to be sent to the past, Itadori understands that to return, he needs to fulfill some requirement. Itadori approaches Tanjiro and learns about Muzan Kibutsuji, the king of demons. He comes to the conclusion that there are no curses and no sorcerers, but that defeating him might be the key to returning to his own time and dimension. So forget completely about not interfering here. And unintentionally, Itadori ends up being entered into the final selection, and he is admitted into the Demon Slayer Corps. Receiving his own sword, he refuses the Nichirin sword and goes his own way, parting from Tanjiro and receiving instructions to exterminate the demons. Itadori meets Tanjiro again on Mount Natagumo, where a large number of demon slayers were called to exterminate the spider demons. Unlike Tanjiro, who locates the demons by their scent, Itadori locates them with his warped spatial awareness. See, Itadori senses the disturbance in the environment, that is, negative energy derived from bad intentions. In a similar way to how he senses the presence of a curse manifesting, with a simple shot of piercing blood at the foot of Mount Natagumo, Itadori guides him to all the spider demons he managed to detect on Mount Natagumo, eliminating them easily. Moving forward, climbing the mountain, Itadori saves Inosuke from the spider demon father using this mantle. He completely slices the demon. Inosuke is impressed, but unable to keep up with him. At the decisive moment, when Rui was about to slice Tanjiro and Inosuke with his blood threads, Itadori interrupts him, firing a piercing blood attack charged with cursed energy directly at Rui's chest. The Oni is easily stopped by Itadori. With the arrival of Shinobu and Tomioka, the two Hashiras forget about Inosuke, focusing exclusively on the anomaly that is Yuji Itadori. But they are easily subdued by this monster. Itadori matches him in speed. However, he is on another level when it comes to strength, endurance, and technique. Tanjiro interrupts the fight to justify Itadori's actions since the final selection. That being said, the Hashiras take him along with Tanjiro and Inosuke to the headquarters of the organization, where Sanemi tries to test the anomaly that is Itadori, only to be sliced before even touching Itadori. But don't worry, Itadori doesn't kill him. He shows the huge gap in power between him and the Hashiras when it comes to power. He heals Sanemi with reversed cursed energy. And he says he's willing to be the gear the core needs to defeat Muzan Kibutsuji, moving forward on the Mugen train alongside Rengoku and the other hunters. Before everyone is put to sleep on the train by Enmu, the lower moon one, Itadori locates him by sensing the distortion in space and heads toward him. Rengoku finishes quickly. Thanks to Itadori, they don't have to face a tough battle on the train. But the train goes off the rails when Akaza, the Upper Moon 3, appears. Remember that Itadori doesn't like interfering in the younger generation's battle unless it's necessary. However, this is set aside when he realizes that he's not in his own dimension. That's why he'll fight alongside Rengoku against Akaza. Despite the insane regeneration of the Upper Moon 3, he can't withstand Itadori's techniques forever, even when taking the fight seriously. Itadori stops Akaza's advance with Dismantle, and while the demon was regenerating, he finishes him off with Black Flash, completely purging the demon's soul. The victory is absolute. Rengoku suffers almost no damage against Akaza, and one of Muzan's favorites is eliminated. This victory leads Tengen to recruit Itadori as well as Tanjiro and his friends to help him save his wives in the entertainment district. Yuji quickly locates Daki, and when he gets ready to face the demon, Gyutaro comes out of her body immediately. Considering that Muzan warned his Upper Moons about Itadori, the following battle is completely humiliating for the Upper Moon 6. Daki's sashes are contained by Itadori's Dismantle, and Gyutaro's poisons are neutralized by the sorcerer's blood control. Uzu and the others barely need to intervene in the battle. When Itadori uses Dismantle to decapitate both demons at the same time, the battle is finished. Notice that Itadori is drastically changing the story of Kimetsu. First, he saves Rengoku and exterminates Akaza. Now he prevents Tanjiro from awakening the Demon Slayer mark, and he stops Uzu from losing his arm, making him feel motivated to continue in the Demon Slayer core. But what may seem good becomes a problem. Look, without Tanjiro fighting Daki and Gyutaro effectively, he doesn't damage his sword, so he doesn't need to go to the Swordsmith village. Without him there, the village is devastated by Upper Moons 4 and 5. And worse, without awakening the Demon Slayer mark and passing it on to the other Hashiras, Mitsuru and Muichiro are killed in the village by Muzan's demons. With the annihilation of the only ones who can make the Demon Slayer's weapons, Muzan decides to finally wipe out the thorns in his side once and for all. Those who get in the way of his plans for domination every day and night. Muzan heads to the Demon Slayer core. Buyashiki, with the gift of clairvoyance, proposes the Hashira training because he knows something bad is going to happen. Yuji takes his position in training with an Upper Moon level opponent so that the pillars can refine their skills and gain more combat experience. When Muzan finally arrives at the hunters' headquarters and sends them to the Infinity Castle, the King of Demons is on the loose. Because Tamayo was not able to develop a poison to stop his regeneration, much less a cure for Nezuko, soon both she and Nezuko would be in the Infinity Castle, serving as support for the hunters. But why wasn't Tamayo able to create a cure for Nezuko and a poison for Muzan? See, she was only able to achieve these feats because of Nezuko's special blood, because she had adapted to the sun. And that only happened in the Swordsmith village, where she was subjected to that. If she and her brother hadn't been there, it would never have happened. But look, Itadori's piercing blood flows throughout the entire Infinity Castle, eliminating an absurd amount of Onis. However, the number of Onis in the castle is so vast that Itadori expands his domain to its maximum reach. Inside his domain, Itadori can sense every living soul. That means every ally and every Oni. As we know, Yuji's Dismantle. Not only is it bigger and stronger than Sukuna's right now, ever since Itadori obtained this technique, his Dismantle is different. He strikes directly at his opponent's soul. So Itadori's Dismantle doesn't just hit demons' physical bodies, which can easily regenerate from that. He strikes at the soul of each Oni, purging them completely. However, the stronger the soul's desire, the more resistant it becomes to attacks like Black Flash and Divergent Fist. That's exactly why Muzan is still standing with cuts all over his body in disbelief. Right after both his two superiors fell to a single attack from Itadori, with the castle collapsing, Itadori stands face to face with Muzan. He can't believe that the sorcerer is so powerful, to the point of dealing with his entire army of demons, including the upper moons, his most powerful demons. Muzan knows he can't regenerate Itadori's cuts, because they didn't just affect his body, but also his soul. Feeling the same fear he felt when he fought Yorichi for the first time, Muzan blows himself up into 1,500 pieces to escape, or at least try. Itadori, with a single move, shatters all of Muzan's pieces with dismantle. The King of Demons was completely purged by the strongest sorcerer of the present day, or rather, by the strongest sorcerer in history. With Muzan dead, all his demons disappear. That includes Nezuko, who would vanish without a cure. Itadori fulfilled the conditions to return to his dimension, so he says goodbye to everyone and goes back with a smile on his face, knowing that now humanity can live in peace, with the end of the war between humans and demons. Notice that without Tanjiro awakening the Demon Slayer mark, none of the Hashiras met the conditions to awaken it, and since the battle in the Infinity Castle lasted only a matter of seconds, none of them had time to die or awaken the mark, being able to live past 25. Carrying in their hearts the memories of Mitsuri and Muichiro, who fought until the end for what they believed in. With the end of this story, which character should appear next in the Demon Slayer universe? Leave your answer in the comments, and if you want to see more insane theories, I'll leave this video and this playlist for you to watch. I guarantee you won't regret it. I'll see you there, otaku.